New York, New York, city of dreams and harsh realities, bright and colored, gray and gloomy. Filled with freedom and sharp contrasts, it gallantly incorporates bliss and poverty, both classical and modern, past and future. For centuries, New York remains as the world's financial capital, birthplace for American cultural trends in literature and visual arts. Until recently, the city was a home to the world's tallest buildings, including the World Trade Center towers, tragically demolished on September 11, 2001. Contemporary New York City is filled with cultural landmarks, one of them being the Islamic center of Manhattan. The city's largest mosque is frequented by nearly all the Muslims living in the 5 boroughs. The Imam of this mosque is a well-known religious diplomat and a laureate of several government achievement awards. Imam Shamsi Ali is a personal acquaintance of numerous politicians. He consults them on the issues of the Muslim community in the United States. Shamsi Ali personally accompanied former President George W. Bush to the site of the tragedy. He is also a strong supporter of the current head of state, President Barack Hussein Obama, in his efforts to construct the infamous Islamic Center near Ground Zero. A vivid advocate of Islam and a father of 5, the 43-year-old Imam Shamsi kindly accepted to meet with us right after his interview with Belgian journalists filming a documentary on Muslims in America.
It is the fastest growing religion in the United States, and even faster after September 11th. In fact, it is 1 compared to 4. So even like before September 11 happens, 1 person, the increase is 4 times after September 11.
La ilaha, la ilaha, illallah, Muhammad, Rasulullah.
And I mean the growth of Islam is not only by number here, but by all dimensions, by all grounds. By number, yes, there are many non-Muslims are learning, and at the end they found that Islam is, at least I said, the good religion for them to follow. They become Muslims. Because I don't want to sometimes saying the truth. Because Christian people also believe that Christianity is truth. So let's say it's the good for them. So many of non-Muslims are turning to Islam after September 11, and that is by number is growing.
Highlighting the current rapid spread of Islam in post-9/11 America, with an immense smile on his face, Shamsi Ali talked about how Muslims managed to infiltrate the country's key government and financial sectors, including police departments, in the political campaign of the current mayor of New York, Michael Bloomberg.
Well, good evening and Ramadan Kareem. And I want to welcome everyone to our annual Ramadan Iftar at Gracie Mansion. Islam did not attack the World Trade Center. Al-Qaeda did. To implicate all of Islam for the actions of a few who twisted a great religion is unfair and un-American. Today, we are not at war with Islam. We are at war with Al-Qaeda and other extremists who hate freedom.
The most important that Islam has become even an integral part of the nation. We have Muslims in Congress, we have Muslims in the White House, we have Muslims in state assembly in different states, we have Muslims in the city council here in New York City, we have many Muslims working for Bloomberg in the city, many Muslims with the NYPD. Last year, for example, in 2010, out of 1,200 new recruited police in New York, around 300 are Muslims. So you can imagine that more Muslims within the NYPD systems. And that's what I mean, that Islam is growing rapidly in the United States. And because of that, Islam also has become more popular. I mean, non-Muslims not only want to be friends with Muslims, but they also want to accommodate Islam in their institutions. How many times that I have been invited to the synagogue to talk about Islam, to the churches to talk about Islam. There is a Ramadan conference at the NYPD, there is an Eid al-Fitr celebration at the City Hall, etc., etc. So Islam has penetrated into all institutions, governments and non-governments. And so I feel that despite of the challenges that we are facing, the hearing in the Congress by Peter King, for example, is a challenge. Because this is the first time in the history of this nation, a hearing is taking place in the Congress in the name of a community. In the past, there were Christian radicals. No hearing against Christian community. There were certain time in the past that there are some Jews are radicals. They used to call themselves Jewish Defense League. It becomes a terrorist organization right now. We didn't have any congressional hearings, but now you have some fringe number of Muslims become radicals. You have this hearing in Congress. So it's very bad for us. It's a challenge.
Blatantly promoting Islam with a human face, the Imam complained of actions of the U.S. Congress in regards to suppressing the spread of the Sharia law in several different states. Brother Shamsi went as far as to reduce the barbaric nature of this law to matters of personal diet. He also stated with the utmost certainty that in the near future, America will live in accordance with the Sharia.
Many states want to pass a resolution against the Sharia. Now, what is Sharia here? Sharia is Muslims' life in connection with religion. It's not about cutting a hand or killing or stoning adulterers. No. Sharia is not, that is Sharia in the past. Sharia right now is, do you eat halal or not? It is about how to live your life. So if you say Muslims have no right to practice Sharia in the state, so don't have the mosque. Don't have Muslim at all. Because as long as you have Muslims in the state, Sharia will be practiced in the state. And in fact, Newt Gingrich, who is one of the possible candidates of president from Republicans, he was the first one who allowed the Muslim to do Jummah, Friday, service in the Congress when he was a speaker. Now he is the person who is speaking out against the Sharia. So I used to say, the person who brought Sharia into Congress is now against Sharia. That is the person, Newt Gingrich. And so I think I used to say, that there is a mixture right now between being blessed as Muslims in the state because we have freedom to practice our religion. We can talk to anybody about Islam. Islam is more perceived, more popular right now. But in the same time, we have to acknowledge the existence of challenges.
Okay. This one-man show continued up until Adib began to converse with the Imam and raise questions regarding the origins of the Hadith, Sunnah, and the Sharia.
I do agree. I think there is a segment in this population. There are people who feed on confrontation and promotion of phobias and paranoia, and they want to depict all Muslims as terrorists, juxtaposition of terrorism with Muslims. I overheard, I entirely agree with you. I say, more in fact radical, I say if Muslims are terrorists, if we generalize on Muslims, then Christians are terrorists 666 times, because those who claim to be Christians, they kill more people just in this last decade, or Jews kill more Palestinians than Palestinians killed. Civilians, children we are talking about. Anyway, I want to come to this point. There is right now, great debate going. I don't know whether you are following forums or internet debates or something in Muslim world regarding what is Islam? What are the sources of Islam? If there are one, the Quran, which was early Muslims, they follow the Quran alone. As you remember, I don't know whether you remember Bukhari, Muslim, Tirmidhi, these have been gathered 230, 300 years later, correct? And in those books even, there are statements attributed to Umar bin Khattab and other Sahaba, Hasbuna Kitabullah, God's book is enough for us. They rejected to follow any hadith and sunnah. Sunnah is another distortion, these arguments going on. There says Sunnah is God's, in the Quran, it says Sunnatullah, Sunnatullah. What does it mean? God's law. But the meaning of the Sunnah is changed. It's made Muhammad's lifestyle like Sunnah Muhammad, correct? And then it is really, it is medieval Arab culture is sanctified in the name of Sunnah to Muhammad, which is not, it's just against the Quran, because the Quran says there is only God's law. Sunnatullah. Now, this argument is very interesting because there are many right now, Muslims are confused. They say we are Sunni, but Muhammad was not Sunni. They say we are Shia, Muhammad was not Shia. There's sectarian division. And there is confusion about Sharia. A moment ago you said Sharia is not hand cutting, but all the sects, they consider hand cutting as a punishment because the reading of the Quran is a little bit, I think,
literal.
Literal, because the word فَقْطَعُوا أَيْدِيَهُنَّ, it also means cutting the relationship of their hand with the crime, or mark, like in chapter Yusuf says, mark, فَقَطَعْنَ أَيْدِيَهُنَّ. The woman cut their fingers. They didn't cut off, it was marking. Therefore, multiple meaning of the verse. And stoning to death, which is, I think, one of the most abhorrent thing to watch, to see a human being is stoned to death by other human being, and which is not in the Quran, which is fabricated, but it entered Bukhari, it entered all other so-called Kutub Sitta, Sahih books, and also the most bizarre, ridiculous story is fabricated. I don't know whether you are familiar about the hungry goat eaten the stone in the verse. Are you familiar with that? Have you heard? According to this hadith, says there was a stone in verse. Have you heard about it? الشيخ والشيخة إذا زنيا فرجموهما البتة نكالا من الله. And somehow a sheikh or a sheikh in Quranic language really means old people.
It is understood as they are married people.
Yeah, married people, which is different than the Quranic language. Basically, the word itself shows it is different. The source is different. But anyway, the meaning they say, if it is married, you stone them to death as a punishment from God. And you say, well, this is not in the Quran. But Hadith book says, as Hadith fabricated, says, well, it was written on leather, and it was under Aisha's bed. After Prophet Muhammad's death, a hungry goat entered the room and ate this verse, the leather. And therefore the verse is abrogated. Qutayba, in his book, Defense of Hadith, he's trying to defend, he's saying, well, it is an animal, God can send an animal to abrogate his verse. Well, this is first after Prophet Muhammad's death. And second, even if goats eat it, it doesn't disappear. There are verses, Quranic manuscripts can burn, still it is in the mind, heart of those who have knowledge.
Okay, so what is your particular question
My
here?
particular question, I want to come. Now, Muslim world is backward. The reason is because of these volumes of liturgy created centuries after Prophet Muhammad. Whatever you do, my dear brother, this Muslim world, as long as you don't show the bravery to challenge those books, they distort the message of the messenger, like St. Paul and later those who had fabricated Trinity distorted the message of Christianity. We fell far away from the Quran. The only complaint of the messenger, brother Shamsi, is what in the Quran? Do you remember? The only complaint. Let me say that and then give you the word.
Confronted with his opponent's awareness in regards to the topics discussed, the Imam became nervous and distrustful after realizing he was being dragged into a conversation where he no longer had the upper hand.
I don't know what is the purpose of this documentary, because you asked me about the Muslims in the state of September 11, and now you come to the substance of Quran and Sunnah.
Yeah.
Now, first of all, I agree with you on some issues, but I disagree on some. Number one, that there are some points in Islam that certainly in need of the hadith. Okay, the way we pray, for example.
Where do you get this?
Okay, there is no in the Quran say raise your hand, put your hand, stand, and okay, you don't find that. The Quran simply
say. I used to say the same thing. I was a Sunni like you. I used to exactly say the same thing. I need these contradictory nonsense books in order to be able to
Now, you want to debate with me or do you want to interview me? Otherwise, I take this out. Okay, I don't want to be interviewed in that way. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I cannot be interviewed in that way. You want to debate or you want to interview me?
Go ahead, let me.
Okay, I'm sorry. This is a State Department TV or what?
The soothing ambiance of the room suddenly changed as the Imam began to lose little control he had over the situation. He became outraged and in this infuriated state chose what he thought was the only plausible way to end the conversation and tried to escape.
Why you are escaping from saying these are people, listen, Muslims in the world, they are discussing this issue. You Imam have responsibility.
Okay, you asked me,
but
you are now pretending yourself as a scholar coming to debate me, not to ask me a question. I know.
I'm Muslim.
But now you are starting attacking the hadith of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
It's not hadith of Prophet.
Now when I give you an example of the salah, tell me where in the Quran says 5 times a day.
Okay.
In his unsuccessful attempt to regain composure, the Imam quickly forgot about his moral obligation as a man of God and began to accuse Adib of heresy and apostasy in the spirit and word of the Spanish Inquisition.
Are you ready to hear? I said I used to believe like you. The Quran.
Okay, and that's you have the right.
Let me give you. The Jewish people, my dear brother, when God told them sacrifice a heifer, they say what color it is. Says God
That's
says,
because you want to follow the Jews.
No.
Tell me where in the Quran
this
says.
This example is for you. For me.
Tell me where in the Quran says that sit down before salam.
Okay. Again, you got.
Now you are.
You don't let me to answer.
No, you are Imam the Inkar Sunnah. You are not the Inkar Sunnah. Okay.
You don't let
so
me
I don't have. I am here not to debate. I am here to be interviewed.
To preach.
No, I am not here to be preached. To preach. It's not the time. If you want to come to my class.
Okay.
Okay, but I don't have time.
Why you
I don't have time.
You ask your question, let me answer and then.
No,
but you don't let me.
I don't need to answer because I'm not asking you questions. Okay? Assalamu alaikum.
Running low on verbal ammo, trying to save his face, Imam of New York, while continuing to shoot with vicious remarks, left the building, similar to a zebra fleeing inside of a lion.
This is ridiculous. You are coming to interview and coming to debate.
Because you are selling a bunch of garbage, leave this Muslim
You are
backward.
garbage coming here.
No,
you are bringing your own garbage.
These books, contradictory books.
Okay, you have the right to say, but you don't have to bring it to me.
Well, this is the books that you,
eat your own
the Muslim women put behind the veil from head to toe because of those hadith books.
Where is it? I don't disagree with it from head to toe. That is yours.
It is in hadith books. It is Shafi and Hanbali.
Where is it says?
Well, do you think they are fabricating?
No, you are always accusing
Which one is
scholars, and you are just coming here bringing your own craziness. Please,
crazy.
Please, I don't have to debate.
But you are exposed. You are exposed now. You are escaping. You are escaping from simple debate.
Wasting this time.
Yes.
The reaction of the Imam resembled a similar situation on Turkish television. when Adib Yüksel's opponent, Professor and former Minister of Religious Affairs Suleiman Ateş, abruptly left the debate during a live broadcast.
Sen Allah'a saygısızsın, Allah'a Muhammed'le sınırlıyorsun. Esas en büyük saygısızlık bu.
Hocam gitmeyin de
sen
bize aydınlatın
Allah'a hakkıyla
bilginiz
takdir
kardeşim.
etmiyorsun. Allah'a hakkıyla takdir etmiyorsun. Kur'an'ın bilgisini bir insan olan Muhammed'le sınırlıyorsun.
Hocamızın bilgilerinden yararlanalım isterseniz.
Muhammed peygamber deyip duruyorsun.
Sen sadece Allah diyorsun, Allah'a saygısızlık mı ediyorsun? Bütün mesele bu. Esas temelinde, cehaletin temelinde şey var. Muhammed
Peki bir
peygamberi
reklam arası, bir reklam. Hocam buyurun burada söyleyin.
Sen katmerlisin.
When you look at hadith, basically, we find the biggest insults to Prophet Muhammad in Bukhari in hadith. Those Sunnis, Shiites, who get angry to Salman Rushdie or to other people who insult Prophet Muhammad, and they should look at the mirror and get angry to themselves because they praise, they consider the works of these books, hadith books, as the holy book besides the Quran. They call it Sharif, while they contain so many insults, like Prophet Muhammad, according to these books, is sexual maniac, and he's basically married, according to this book, while he was 54 years old, married Aisha while she was 9 years old, a pedophile, according to these books. He was not a moral leader at all, because one of the hadith says he cut the hands and arms of a group of suspects of murdering his shepherd, and he gouged their eyes with hot nail and left them in the desert thirsty, and he didn't even allow them to get water while they were dying last moment.
Many followers of religions and cults stand on two horses: ignorance and arrogance. To protect themselves from being torn apart, they spend enormous effort to keep the two competing horses at the same speed and distance. Beware the riders of twin horses.